Howdy folks, and welcome back to Armoured Warfare with the mighty Jingles, and today's video heralds the start of a new video series for Armoured Warfare. I'm calling these How to Not Suck at various different Armoured Warfare co-op battles. And we're starting off with Operation Stormy Winter. Now, I'm playing through in hard difficulty mode, although the same general strategies and map tactics apply regardless of the difficulty setting. I'll be trying to cover various different ways to get the most bang for your buck regardless of the vehicle that you're playing, whether that be a main battle tank, artillery, light tank, tank destroyer or armoured fighting vehicle. Be advised that there is currently a bit of a bug on Operation Stormy Winter. Don't worry, it isn't going to affect your chances of winning the battle. It's certainly not game breaking, but there is a sound bug. At some point throughout the course of this battle, in most of the replays that you're going to see, the gun sound effects are going to become mysteriously absent. It's a known problem with this map. No idea when it's going to be fixed, so bear that in mind if things suddenly go a little bit quiet throughout the course of these battles. Stormy Winter is a reasonably well balanced map. There's pretty much something to do for every class of vehicle here, although some of the options for artillery are a little limited, but they're definitely not useless on this map, particularly if they have the smoke shell unlocked. Generally speaking, the more main battle tanks you have on your team, the better your chances are of successfully completing this mission, and, well, sadly that tends to be true for most of the co-op battles here in Armoured Warfare. Nevertheless, I'm going to show you a replay in which we didn't have a single main battle tank, and we still managed to pull it off through careful coordination between the various different members of the team, and not falling into the obvious trap that people fall victim to over and over and over again here on Operation Stormy Winter, but more on that in a moment. If you're in a main battle tank, such as the Tier 7 Leopard 2 MBT, which you can see me driving here, played this game not long after I'd unlocked the vehicle. Believe it or not, despite the speed that it's going at, this is actually an almost completely stock Leopard 2. It's a very good machine, however. But more on that when I come to cover the machine in greater detail in its own video at some point in the future. If you are in a main battle tank on Operation Stormy Winter, then your tactics are nice and simple. Get forward, engage the enemy. You want to be the first thing the enemy sees and the first thing that they start shooting at. And wouldn't you know it? Engine fire on that enemy light tank wasn't enough to kill him. Challenger had to put a shot of APDS in to finish him off. Don't be afraid of getting stuck in. You're in a main battle tank. Getting stuck in is your job. But at the same time, don't throw caution to the wind and be too aggressive and push too far in, leaving your flanks exposed to enemy fire. There's a very, very generous time limit on Operation Stormy Winter. You can afford to take your time and deal with the enemy tanks as they pop up, before pushing further into the complex and possibly generating fresh spawns, which can overwhelm you even at this early stage of the battle, or at the very least they're going to do damage that you can ill afford to take, because this battle gets very, very complicated later on. While myself and this Challenger are busy taking it on the chin and dealing with the initial wave of enemy tanks, have a look at the map. Note the positions of the rest of the team. Now, the artillery, sure, okay, he cannot afford to get spotted at this early stage of the game. The Chieftain is giving some supporting fire, but of course he's only a Tier 5 main battle tank, so he's doing what he can without taking unnecessary risks. Now, have a look at the position of the M2 Bradley. Now, he's the armoured fighting vehicle of the team, he's our scout, but he's not doing any scouting yet. He's basically only moved about 50 metres forward from the spawn, and he's pretty much in the same position as the artillery. Now, he's basically playing it safe. He could be making himself more useful at this early stage of the game, and I'll show you what I'm talking about when we come to cover armoured fighting vehicle tactics on this map. At the same time, he's not really doing anything wrong there either. He has managed to secure a number of kills, finishing off low health targets that have been mauled by myself, the Challenger and the Chieftain. And he is making sure that I can fire from this position without being surprised by anything popping up on my right flank. So while he could be making himself more useful, he's certainly not doing anything wrong. And as the battle progresses, if you follow his position on the map, you'll see him moving up, constantly staying behind the main battle tanks and supporting them as best he can. At least until it all starts going horribly, horribly wrong. But we'll cover that again in a moment. For now, we've still got some clearance to do. We've dealt with the initial wave of enemy tanks, and as you move further into the factory complex, the second wave spawns. It's vitally important that you ensure you keep your front towards these guys at all times. And you can see I've run into a bit of an issue here. because I've got tanks to my left and tanks to my right. And I'm probably going to have to deal with the tank on my right, yes. So this is fine, because I can deal with him alone. I've got a nice building between myself and all of his friends. And yeah, he's not feeling too good now. He's also taken some flanking fire there from that Bradley. And he's dead. So, you fight your way through the factory complex until you begin to approach the crash site of the helicopter that was shot down carrying vital intel documents, and that's the whole objective of Operation Stormy Winter. You can complete this map in one of two ways. Either the regular way, destroy every enemy vehicle present on the map, and there is a very good opportunity on Operation Stormy Winter to do a lot of damage. There are lots, and I mean lots, of tanks that spawn and try to fight you off on this map. You can rack up some absolutely astronomical damage numbers on this map, and you do have plenty of time to do it. As I said at the beginning, it's got a very, very, very generous time limit. The other way of winning Operation Stormy Winter, that doesn't involve having to kill absolutely everything, is to capture the crash site. If Operation Stormy Winter is going to go catastrophically wrong, and it often does, it's always because somebody, and for some bizarre reason it always seems to be a Challenger driver, but somebody drives into that cap circle before the team is ready for it. What happens when you drive into that cap circle is, regardless of where your team are or who they're fighting at the time, multiple waves of enemy vehicles spawn and come to the defense of the cap circle, and they spawn all around you, and there are a metric arse ton of them. I've played multiple games of Operation Stormy Winter where things were going perfectly until some genius, usually in a Challenger, seriously, I don't know why, but it's usually somebody in a Challenger, drives into that cap circle while we're still heavily engaged with tanks to the front, and we're all dead in the matter of seconds. This one actually wasn't that bad, but you'll see just how quickly things can go horribly, horribly tits up the second somebody drives into that cap circle. Right now, this is actually not that bad a situation to be in. It could be worse. We could still be fighting enemy tanks while I'm staring at the Challenger and thinking, don't do it, don't do it. Oh, too late, he's done it. The chieftain behind us is not going to last very long. He doesn't have a lot of health. He's only in a tier 5 main battle tank. You see where the Bradley is back there? That's where we need to be. We need to be in a position, and they're spawning behind us, they're spawning in front of us, they're spawning to the left, they're spawning to the right. If I stay here, I'm going to die. It's as simple as that. But I need to create some breathing space. So knock out the expeditionary tank and get myself down here into the low ground where the tanks that have spawned behind us can't shoot me in the flanks and rear while I'm dealing with the tanks that have spawned down here. That Bradley, by the way, and you see his position on the map, he's in an absolutely fantastic spot. And ideally that's where everybody, other than the person that triggers the spawn, that's where everybody should be on Operation Stormy Winter before the spawn gets triggered. Come on, come on, come on. You can't afford to hang around even here for too long, however, because more vehicles are going to spawn down here. Although it is significant, and there they are, and it's significantly easier to deal with them, particularly when they've got an armoured fighting vehicle shooting them up from the rear, and you've got some terrain features you can use to shield yourself from them. I want to get over here, even if it means exposing my flank momentarily, so I can shoot this guy up. No, no, don't look at the Bradley, look at me. Get some shots into his engine, finish him off so I can take advantage of these dips and folds in the terrain to keep myself shielded from fire. We lost the chieftain, by the way. It was completely inevitable once that spawn got triggered early. And try to make sure that that Bradley keeps his gun firing. The Challenger is being almost completely useless. He's about to run out of ammunition, and he's too cheap to load a reload kit. If nothing else, I suppose he is at least occupying the attention of a couple of enemy tanks, so myself and the Bradley were able to clean up and finally secure this end of the map, giving me the opportunity that I need to get up here, now that I no longer have to worry about getting shot on the sides and rear. At least for now, anyway, because there are going to be even further waves of enemy vehicles spawning, and I'm beginning to run, well, the team as a whole is running out of guns to shoot at them with, and I'm beginning to run out of ammunition, even after going for a reload, courtesy of a high-tier field maintenance kit. So things are not looking too good. The Challenger is still digging into the same position he's been in for, well, since he triggered the spawn. The Bradley has almost certainly had to go for a reload. He's keeping that chain gun barrel blistering hot. I need to get around the rear of these guys. Shoot directly into the engine of the tank and you stand a much better chance of doing bonus critical damage. Here we go, that's more like it. And there we go, fresh respawns, and they're not the only ones. There are going to be even more. And my ammunition situation is not looking too good. I'm going to inch forward here. I'm going to take a hit from that Stingray behind me sooner or later, but let's just try to delay the inevitable. There it is. And come on, back up, keep them in front of me. Nailed the main battle tank. Now I'm free to deal with the Stingray. We need to get this guy killed so I can get into a nice safe position before even further respawns pop up. And actually, no, further respawns have already popped up. My ammunition situation is not looking good. That Challenger is now out of ammunition. We need to cap. There we go, fresh tanks behind us. There's another one down there. It really is relentless. You can see how easy it is for things to go horribly pear-shaped if somebody triggers this spawn when the team isn't ready for it, or even if the team is ready for it. Stormy Winter is not an easy map to complete, but you can make things significantly easier for yourself if you don't trigger that cap until the team is ready for it. How do you know the team is ready for it? Well, look at the map. The position that the Bradley was in is ideally where you want everybody to be, other than the person that triggers the spawn, when you trigger the spawn. Why is that? Well, you can't be outflanked while you're up there. And the volume of fire that you can put down on the tanks that spawn is easily capable of taking them out one after the other very quickly indeed. On the plus side, as you can see, there are so many tanks that spawn on Operation Stormy Winter that, providing things don't go catastrophically badly, and they often do, you can do a lot of damage on this map. 22,000 I did there in the Leopard 2. And got a fair amount of spotting damage in there as well, thanks to the Bradley on the corner of the map up on the hill behind me. And I burned through ammunition on this map like there was a sale on. 62 rounds of APDS fired, 59 hits. Why didn't you fire any high explosive anti-tank ammunition, Jingles? I had only just unlocked the Leopard 2. I didn't yet have access to the shaped charge ammunition. APDS was all I had. Still, it was enough to get the job done, but only just, by the narrowest of margins. So that's it for main battle tanks on Operation Stormy Winter. How about other classes of vehicle? How about an armoured fighting vehicle, like the M2 Bradley? The M2 Bradley in the previous example certainly didn't do anything wrong, and he was in the right place at the right time. He played things cautiously at the beginning, but at the end of the day he is in an armoured fighting vehicle, not a main battle tank. And taking enemy main battle tanks on face to face, in the confines of the streets of that industrial complex over there, is not what an armoured fighting vehicle is for. At the same time, you're not really much of a scout on this kind of map. Most of the spots tend to go to the main battle tanks that basically run into enemy main battle tanks face to face. That doesn't mean you're completely useless on this map in an armoured fighting vehicle, however. Because in Operation Stormy Winter, your job isn't so much spotting enemy vehicles as it is dealing with the secondary objectives and being in the right place to get supporting fire in on the targets that your main battle tanks are engaging. Trying to clean up the kills of the main battle tanks. A main battle tank doesn't necessarily want to waste a 120mm main armament shell on an enemy vehicle that only has 60 health remaining. If you're in an armoured fighting vehicle, these are your priority targets. Obviously, you want to try to prioritise machines that you can do full damage on with your autocannon. Things like enemy armoured fighting vehicles, tank destroyers, light tanks, and of course always keeping an eye open for those opportunities when you can unload into the engines of main battle tanks through their rear armour. Of course, none of this is particularly pertinent to Operation Stormy Winter. These are standard armoured fighting vehicle tactics. What you see me doing on this particular replay, however, is rather than doing what the M2 Bradley did in the previous example, I'm getting around the flank early. Now, once again, there's absolutely nothing wrong with what the armoured fighting vehicle in the previous match did. I, however, through long and bitter experience, have learned not to trust my team's ability to wait for everybody to be in the right position before that cap gets triggered. And so I am getting around here well in advance and still taking the opportunity to support the team as and when I can, by designating targets as and when I can, and also taking whatever opportunities exist to put some shots into the flanks and, if possible, the rear of the various different tanks that the main battle tanks are fighting up there. Enemy tanks are going to spawn down here, by the way, which is why this is a slightly more risky strategy than what you saw the M2 Bradley doing in the previous example. But I'm not alone down here. The Chintaro tank destroyer is slightly further behind me. He's pretty much doing the same thing as I am. And any second now, there it is, an MBT-70. But they spawn facing the other way. So you've got the chance to put shots into that vulnerable engine deck at the rear. Assisted by the Chintaro, who landed a good shot into him. And there's another one, just reloading the gun. And they've seen the Chintaro, and they're going for him. Need to keep that guy alive. It's not just the Leopard, there's an AFV going for him as well. Prioritise the AFV because I can kill him very quickly. And with the Leopard designated, I'm going to be doing maximum damage, trying to get those shots into the engines, and if I can't get the shots into the engines, autocannon ammunition does increase damage to modules like tracks. So you very quickly, if you pour the fire into the tracks of a main battle tank, you're very quickly able to immobilise and disable them. This end of the map looks reasonably secure. And looking at the map, nobody is yet in a position to trigger that spawn. So I've definitely gotten down here a little bit too soon. And you could hang around down here in an AFV and just wait for the team to get into a position where they're going to start triggering that spawn. But you would spend a lot of time sitting around doing nothing. So we're going to hurry things along a little, complete the secondary objectives by nailing this truck, and then assist the team in finishing off the last of the enemy main battle tanks up here, otherwise known as ninjaing the kill. And since I am in an armoured fighting vehicle, I know I can get back to where I need to be before any of these guys blunders through that cap circle. Now at this point we've actually only dealt with the first two spawns of defensive enemy vehicles. There is a third, and it's triggered as the tanks on your team push through the centre of this industrial complex, which is going to happen around about now. I have missiles loaded, it's a warrior, missiles away. Luckily it's not an upgraded warrior, so he doesn't have the cage armour or the explosive reactive armour plating. I did full damage with the tow missiles from the Bradley. Get out of his line of fire because that warrior's 30mm autocannon can do a lot of damage to a Bradley. And looking at the map, I just don't trust the team to not accidentally or even on purpose drive into that spawn and trigger even more vehicles. So it's around about time. Let me just launch what's in my missile launcher, get another kill. It's around about time for me to get to where I need to be in order to stand a fighting chance of actually surviving this map. And it's up there in the corner. And you can see the Chintaro tank destroyer over there has exactly the same idea. He's obviously been around the block a few times. He knows what you need to do on Operation Stormy Winter. Here he comes. And we got here in the nick of time because that chieftain is about to drive into the cap. Any second now. They've done it, and all hell breaks loose. So, myself and the Chintaro lighting up this T-Series tank. He's dead. We got spotted, doesn't matter. Nobody else yet in a position to start shooting at us. If I was that MBT-70 down there on 170 health, however, I'd be feeling pretty nervous around about now, and here come the rest of them. Missiles almost ready. There's one spare missile. Who's going to have it? Chintaro's hit that guy. I'm going to finish him off. While I'm reloading the missile launchers, I'll designate this guy so the Chintaro can do maximum damage to him. And he's been taken out. Missiles still loading. Some great fire coming in here from the Chintaro with me. Missiles away. This position where myself and the Chintaro tank destroyer are located, if you position your more vulnerable vehicles, your AFVs, your light tanks, your tank destroyers, here, ready to intercept these waves of enemy tanks once that cap gets triggered. It doesn't really matter if somebody just blunders into the cap circle and triggers these guys. Providing the guys in my position do what me and the Chintaro are doing. You prioritise all of the enemy vehicles that spawn on this side. And what we're doing here is two things. First of all, we're keeping ourselves alive, and we're keeping our guns in the battle by neutralising the machines that are the most dangerous threat to us. But we're also helping the guys who blundered into the cap circle, because it means they can turn their best armour towards the tanks that are spawning on the far side, and they don't have to worry about anything shooting them in the back. And you can do a lot of damage from up here, because you generally have either flank or rear shots at all of the targets that are converging from both sides in order to storm that cap circle. Oh, been spotted. Come on, reload, reload, reload. Designate him as a target. Don't shoot at the Chintaro, you bastard. Come on, let's light up that engine block. Got him. Another one coming in. Crap, he's hit the Chintaro. I'm out. Ramming speed. Got to take him out before we can kill the Chintaro. Did it. And once again, we're alive. Well, some of us are. There's only one tank left up there. Me and the Chintaro's taken some hits, which was kind of inevitable, but I've done everything that I could to try to keep him alive. Before too long, it's going to be just me and the Chintaro left. What the main battle tanks up there should have done was to, instead of fighting inside the cap circle, where, okay, they didn't have to worry about targets shooting them from the rear, thanks to myself and the Chintaro, but they still had to worry about getting shot in the flanks from both sides. Instead of fighting up there in the cap circle, what they should have done was come down to this patch of lower ground, just here in front of me, where they could go hold down against the vehicles that were approaching from the far side up there. But people never do that. And that's the key to success here after you've triggered this final spawn here on Operation Stormy Winter. Right now, of course, there's just me and the Chintaro left, and he really can't afford to take many more hits, and I need to keep his gun in the game for as long as humanly possible. So I'm moving forward to not take the fire from the enemy tanks. I'm not quite that stupid. Back off, back off, back off, back off. As I said, I'm here to draw the fire, not to take the fire. I'm in a Bradley. I don't want to get shot at by a Terminator, not with that thing's autocannons. At the same time, however, I'm not entirely convinced that there aren't going to be further spawns of enemy vehicles, and we've put up a good fight so far, but taking hits, back off, back off, back off. I think it might be time to cap. Armoured fighting vehicles, of course, can cap up to 25% faster than other classes of vehicle, and I definitely think discretion is the better form of valour at this stage of the battle. There's still plenty of time left, but there's not plenty of us left. The Chintaro really can't afford to take many more hits, and I've been pretty lucky so far, but you can't afford to rely on luck, so I'm going to back up a little, give him some more space. No, he's going to take cover behind the hulk of that burned out tank. Okay, and we're just going to cap this one out. I think we've done enough for one day. And as you can see, the results are certainly worth it. In fact, any result that ends in a victory on Operation Stormy Winter is a good one in my book. Now, if you're in a tank destroyer like the LAV-600 here, it's pretty much exactly the same as you would do in an armoured fighting vehicle. As soon as there's nothing else to shoot at, and as soon as it's practical to do so, get yourself up into this far extreme northwestern corner of the map. Sure, you could follow the main battle tanks through the streets of the industrial complex there, using them as cover, popping out to take shots as and when you can, but you run the risk of being stuck in the middle of that cap circle with the main battle tanks when they trigger the spawn, and you will not last long. It's far, far safer to position yourself right up here in exactly the same spot where myself and the Chintaro were in the previous match. And that's exactly what myself in the LAV-600 and the Ramcan 99 armoured fighting vehicle do on this version of Operation Stormy Winter, but you'll notice something slightly different going on with the main battle tanks. They don't just blunder into that cap circle this time around. One of them drives into the cap circle and triggers the spawn. The other two have circled around into the lower ground where they can go hold down. With myself and the Ramcan 99 taking care of any threats to their rear, they're able to completely devastate the various different spawns of tanks that come in to try to take that cap circle off us. And this time around, every single one of us survived. Stormy Winter isn't the most artillery-friendly map, but it's certainly not the worst. It's not like Operation Harbinger or Operation Hydra, for example, where the second you fire your gun, you immediately get focused down by anything up to 3, possibly auto-loading enemy artillery who won't rest until you're dead, or they are. There is no enemy artillery for you to worry about on Operation Stormy Winter. However, a lot of the fighting does take place in the narrow streets of this industrial complex around the crash site of the helicopter, and it can be very, very difficult to get yourself into the right position at the right time where you're actually able to land shots where they need to go because of all the buildings obstructing your line of fire. It's kind of like Operation Life Jacket, except worse. Nevertheless, artillery still can have a decisive role in Operation Stormy Winter. You'll probably get the majority of your damage done in the early phase of the battle, but be careful not to venture too far forward in pursuit of those perfect shots, because you can and will get spotted by the enemy tanks that your team engage early on at the start of the battle. I've seen people get far too ambitious in artillery in this map and end up being the first casualty of the game. You don't want to head too far out of the spawn, at least at first, and at least until the initial contact with enemy tanks is concluded. Once the tanks on your team venture further into this industrial complex, then and only then is it safe to relocate and head further west to set yourself up for some better shots into the cap circle. But whatever else you do, you must make sure that as soon as your team is ready to enter that cap circle, you've got a smoke shell ready to go to give them cover, because they are going to need it. As always in artillery, prioritise targets like main battle tanks attacking from your team's flanks that your team are going to have problems penetrating from the front. These should always be your first priority targets. If you can see that your team are heavily engaged in one direction and nothing's appeared behind them yet, trust me, something will. Drop an illumination round behind them so that they don't get taken by surprise. My typical support shell loadout in those machines which actually have access to it, so tier 6 and above, is 8 illumination shells and 2 smoke shells, and this is usually what I choose because I tend to spend most of my time trying to hunt and kill enemy artillery first, and obviously illumination rounds come in very handy for that. If you see Operation Stormy Winter is the next map in the rotation and you're queuing up on artillery, I would recommend you go 5 smoke and 5 illumination, because if you're in this kind of situation where there's just you and, for example, 1 armoured fighting vehicle left, you're going to need to blanket that armoured fighting vehicle in as much smoke as possible. And when you do that, he can no longer spot targets for himself. So you're also going to need your illumination rounds to light the targets up in the cap circle for him. What you absolutely cannot do in artillery on this map is to just sit in the spawn point, never moving the entire game, and just hoping targets are going to pop up for you. You will be a burden on your team, they will not appreciate it. You need to be proactive in artillery on Stormy Winter, but you can have a decisive effect on the outcome of the battle. Admittedly, I didn't have nearly as decisive an effect on the outcome of this battle as that B1 Draco driver, who did a frankly absurd amount of damage. Well played to him, but he wouldn't have survived without me. Alright then, Jingles, so 2 questions. What about light tanks? You haven't showed us those yet. And what if you don't have any main battle tanks? Answer me that one, my fine feathered friend. Well, okay, you got me. Sometimes the matchmaker just likes to throw you a curveball. Sometimes you're playing at 3 o'clock in the morning and all of the main battle tanks are in the same game, and all that's left are the dregs at the bottom of the barrel. 1 light tank, 2 tank destroyers, and 2 scouts. Nothing with any kind of armour whatsoever. As with many things in armoured warfare, things get substantially easier the more main battle tanks you have, and Stormy Winter with no main battle tanks is not easy. You are going to have to get creative, but it's not impossible either. In a light tank like the Stingray 1, you have no armour whatsoever, but in this particular battle, you've got more armour than anybody else on your team. But you're still in a light tank, you can't afford to fight anything face to face. You've got to take those side shots when they're available and get the hell out of the way a little bit faster than that, Jingles, when they're not. In this kind of situation, you're going to be fighting from the flanks. You can't afford to rush headlong into a bunch of main battle tanks. And you can afford to take your time on Operation Stormy Winter. It does give you a very, very generous time limit. This isn't Operation Harbinger where you're fighting the clock as much as you are the enemy team. Don't take any unnecessary chances. If you start taking damage, be somewhere else. When you have this kind of team lineup, you are all in very, very fast, agile, maneuverable vehicles. That's practically the only advantage that you have. Well, that and a higher than average stealth rating and a higher than average view range, which means that you can often get the first couple of shots into a lot of these targets before they even know that you're there. Providing, of course, that you don't just blunder into them face first by taking these lightly armoured machines into a gunfight in the middle of the city streets. This is not the gunfight at the OK Corral. Use what advantages you have. Of course, you are going to take some damage, and casualties are going to be pretty much inevitable when you've got this kind of team lineup on this map. And at some point, some poor sucker is actually going to have to be the one to enter that cap circle and trigger the spawn, because there's only two ways of winning Operation Stormy Winter. Either capture, and to do that you have to enter the cap circle, or kill all of the enemy tanks. And in order to get them all to spawn, you have to enter the cap circle. So, who's feeling brave? What do you mean I've got the most armour? Oh shit. Alright. The key, of course, is communication. Is everybody ready? If not, get ready. If enemy tanks are still up, kill them. If you can't kill them without driving into the cap circle, don't drive into the cap circle. Go around. Or let somebody else kill them. Make sure that everybody is in position. Clean up any secondary objectives if the opportunity presents itself, but don't worry too much about the secondary objectives, because this is going to be a tough fight. Talk to the team. Get everybody into the correct position. And then pick one tank to get into that cap circle, and then get the hell out. Light tanks, especially good at this, because you have the engine boost, which is the class ability, if you like, of light tanks. For a couple of seconds, you can go really, really, really fast. So line yourself up, make sure you know which way you're going to go to get out, and then get ready, bend over, grab your ankles, and kiss your ass goodbye, because things are going to get very, very hot very, very soon as you drive over that red line. Everybody's moving into more or less the right position. Here we go. Tell my mum I did my best. I really don't like this anymore. And here they come. Come on guys, give me some cover. Good boys. Get stuck in. Right. Managed to do it and get out of there alive. And now we've got them all in front of us. They can't outflank us here. So, it's just a question of... The only real thing that we have going for us here is the firepower. We certainly don't have any armour. I've got the most heavy armour of anything surviving on the team, and I don't have anything like any kind of heavy armour. So, use the terrain. The low ground here is absolutely perfect for going hull down. You might need to back up a little bit in order to actually bring the gun to bear on targets, but all you're exposing is the top of your turret. Yeah, they can see you. That's not a bad thing, because it means they're going to be shooting at the top of your turret, and the Stingray's turret isn't too bad, provided you don't expose too much of it. And they're not shooting much at the very, very fragile tank destroyers and AFVs behind you. You are going to take casualties doing this, but use whatever advantages you have, because you don't have many. Pop up, take your shot, pop down, do whatever damage you can, and expect to take casualties. It's almost inevitable. That doesn't mean you can't give a good account of yourself, however. We're all still alive at the moment, and we are taking them down. Come on boys, you can do it. Health bars aren't looking great. I need to draw some more fire from the guys on the ridgeline behind me. Let's pop into the cap circle and... Okay. A little bit more there than I was expecting. We've just lost somebody. We may have to cap this one out. Which, hey, a win's a win. With the odds stacked against you like this, I'll take a win. And I don't care how we get it. Come on. Come on. Uh-oh. That doesn't look too good. and neither does that. And I've been spotted, and bugger. I've taken a hit, the cap's reset. Smoke grenade out, back off, back off. Where is he? Where is he? Where is he? He's gone around. But I'm spotting them for the team. Unfortunately, the team is melting away, and I've taken another hit, and oh no. Come on, get the tracks back up, get the tracks back up. Back off. I've already used my field maintenance kit. I can't really afford to take more than one more hit. And there's only me and a weasel left. We are going to have to cap this one out. There is no way we're going to kill all of these tanks. And they haven't finished spawning yet. So, weasel, we're going to cap. I'm not feeling brave anymore. Come on, my son. I've broken contact. Wait a minute. We'll deal with this guy first. So you can actually get over here. Come on, give me a shot. There it is. Bingo. Right. If he can take care of... He's still putting fire at the guys inside the cap circle. That tank over there is going to be in a position to shoot him up. Not anymore. Come on, Mr. Weasel. Let's do it. Let's get in here. I've still got a couple of smoke grenades left if I need them. Bingo, he's nailed him. Right. This isn't funny anymore. Screw it. We're capping. I don't care if it's cowardly. I want to win. And I don't really care if I end up looking like a massive coward. Come on, Weasel. We don't have all day. Oh, maybe I can... Oh, not enough to kill him. I don't want to get shot. Back up, back up. Still capping. I can't afford to get reset now. There's going to be another spawn of enemy vehicles. Weasel's still doing what he can to try and get over here, but he's got to nail these guys to... Oh, I've been spotted. No! Oh, fantastic, we did it. Oh, that was exciting. And also very stressful. And I have to admit, that really took me by surprise, because all along I thought that we'd won by capping, and it wasn't until I actually came to do this video when I realised that we did actually kill every available enemy tank. We did not win by capping. The Weasel got the final kill, and that's what ended the match. I don't recommend trying that at home. Stick around and wait for a couple of main battle tanks. So, how to not suck at Operation Stormy Winter. It's probably one of the more frustrating maps in the PvE co-op battle rotation, although that's not down to any particular fault of the map itself. It's more down to the fact that there's always some genius on the team. And they're usually in a main battle tank, and it's usually a challenger, for some bizarre reason, who insists on driving into that cap circle and triggering all of those final spawns of enemy tanks when the team is in the worst possible situation to deal with it. And yet, even when everything goes perfectly, it's still not a pushover. It's a very, very challenging map, and I really do enjoy playing it. Like the desert map, Operation Tsunami, there is a very generous time limit and no shortage of enemy tanks to rack up astronomical damage numbers on, providing you talk to your team and you trigger that final spawn when people are ready and in a position to deal with it adequately and safely. Hopefully, the more of you who watch this video, the less frustration I'll be seeing when I see Operation Stormy Winter and challenges in my team when I next queue up for a hard mode PvE battle. I hope you guys have enjoyed this video, and as always, take care, and I'll catch you next time.